Hi, Navi here from at @BeLightBeans and at figure.8.energy on Instagram. And right now I am packaging up my cinnamon rolls. These are raw cinnamon rolls. You're like, why are they look a little weird? But they're highly delicious and nutritious. They're made out of bananas that I dehydrated, and then I mashed up some like dates and coconut with some cinnamon, and I put it in there as well. See, kind of like in here. So basically what I did is I sliced the banana into 3 parts, and then I dehydrated it for 8 hours, and then put the date mixture on it and rolled it up into these little pinwheels. So they're like really good. I've made these before. I used to make dehydrated treats all of the time back when I had access to an Excalibur dehydrator. And you know, like along my journey I stopped having access to that, and so I had to adapt to a different way of consuming. And then a couple weeks ago, you know, I was staying out in like the Stark area, and it's only 30 minutes away from Gainesville, which is more progressive and health conscious and more connected to nature and all of these sorts. And so when I pulled Marketplace, $15 Excalibur dehydrator. Just like, if anybody who knows about the raw like dehydrator world knows that like that is a deal. These are like top of the line dehydrators, and I love it so much. So I made a bunch of these, you know, and now I have a stock. I'm stocking up for Zen Awakening. I was told that they do not have electricity, so I'm making sure that we have enough really fun treats for them, so we don't have to worry about, you know, I don't know. Not like we have to worry about anything. I think it'd be really fun to have these yummy treats if we don't eat them all before then. Also, the cool thing about dehydrating is like you can store them in an airtight container and they're shelf stable for a while. So I have those ready, and let's see what I'm with this. And then I didn't have enough dates. I didn't want to go to the grocery store, so the rest of them I just rolled up like this, and I gave one to Rian, or more than one, but I gave the first one to Rian, and he like unwraps it, was having so much fun unrolling it and eating it, and he was just like like the really beautiful, dramatic reaction. And you know, children are like so honest, so it's wonderful to have that type of reaction from him, because he's gonna be eating most of these if we're honest with ourselves. Let me not wake up the boys. So today I was spending time with a couple of ladies and their children. It's just like really healing to be with conscious moms and their children. And you know, she shows up and she's just a bit distraught, And this led to really beautiful, healing conversations about safe space. Like, after this is unfolding, and like I have created different environments that I have called safe space, and I call them safe space for different reasons. And I was curious. I was like, well, what are y'all's definition of safe space? Because what had happened is she was told that an environment was a safe space, and she goes in expressing her authentic feels, and it later results in gossip amongst other people, and she's still feeling the ripple effects of it. And she's just like confused. She's like, I was told it was a safe space and it's not, and like now it's all of these things. And she thought she could just go there and express herself and not be judged, and that was not what happened. And like I've had experiences too where like I felt like a conversation I was having with somebody, I was like having it, and it was a safe space to express myself, because in the moment they seemed to like really take it in, and then we go months later, we have like a disagreement about something, and then they bring up something that I told them in confidence, and that just like took me aback, because I was like, whoa, like I mistook an interaction with somebody for being a safe space, and now like I will never feel safe in this person's space again. And I know that's like a strong definitive statement, but it's like what I shared with them was really vulnerable, like so vulnerable, and they used it against me to try to hurt me, because that's what like some people do, who when they don't like get their way and they know you on a very close level, and they know like all of these things about you, because you did confide in them, it's like they can attempt to harm you. And to do that, like they'll bring up things that are very sacred to that moment, and so then it still begs the question of like, well, what is safe space, and like how do I know if the space that I'm in, the people that I'm interacting with, are a safe space? And it all really comes down to energetic discernment. Like, feel into it. From my situation, reflecting back on it, it was like, yeah, this person probably wasn't the right person to express this to, because the way I was feeling was tied to the way I was being treated uh, by them. And so, of course, it's going to have like a deeper root, and there will be some like emotional tethers there. So that's not really like a stable environment to have that conversation in. And safe space, I feel like, is a space you can go into and you can be your authentic self. You can express yourself, and even if you are expressing from traumas, and say it's like a little bit messy, like messy in the terms of like you have emotions about it, it's like the people there are holding you, whether it's just like energetically in the space or physically holding you and letting you pour all this stuff out. And maybe they are offering you some feedback, insights, and sometimes that's not even needed, right? It's just like somewhere where you can just like express yourself and not feel that judgment, and not have a toxic reaction is the thing. Because somebody can be expressing themselves and they could say things that don't resonate with you, or maybe like it does offend you on one level, and the whole thing is like them knowing that you're not going to react in a way that's going to trigger more of their wounds. But if you are triggered, like, you don't have to withhold it. You can judge, like, is now a good time to talk about it? And if it is, how can I frame this in a way that feels safe, where we are being emotionally intelligent and aware of what the other person is going through, and just state it from more of an objective standpoint. I've done this, like, recently, where, you know, like, I was talking to somebody and they had shared a lot of things with me that showed me that they felt like I was a safe space. And that made me feel really good because, you know, like, I want to be a safe space for people. And I also find myself, like, I'm used to that. I'm used to always being a safe space for other people. And the reciprocity of safe space isn't always there for me, which is why, like, in my last video where I was talking about emotions and why people might feel that, like, I am emotional, is because I'm not, like, always expressing my emotions to them. And if I am, I'm doing it in a very logical way, or I'm helping them dissect their emotions in a logical way. And it's because I haven't had many spaces where I felt like it was a safe space. And so I've had to find that safe space within myself. So in this particular interaction, it's like, well, you know what? I do feel like this could be a safe space. Like, the space is like the energetic interaction between us to express, like, how I have been triggered by a certain statement. And the way I made sure it was safe is I laid the foundation of, like, when I'm talking about the emotional intelligence, is dissecting it in a way that I was saying, like, hey, I am feeling something, and I know I'm feeling it because of things that I've experienced in the past. And I know that this situation is different with you because I've seen and experienced different things, and still, this is what I'm experiencing. And in a safe space, it's like you're able to say that, and the person not react in a negative way. And really, that happens if a person is secure within themselves. Because whenever there are those more emotional reactions, or somebody's, like, attacking you, is because they're feeling some sort of insecurity in themselves. And it's not necessarily like it's a bad thing. Like, we're human, we have insecurities. Like, we all struggled with, are struggling with, or going through some form of insecurity based off of past experiences, childhood wounds, you know, all of these different things. And so it's completely human too. But I'm saying, like, in a safe space, you'd be able to express this even if somebody does have an insecurity and you guys are just, like, talking it through from an objective standpoint. And I want to share something that I wrote in a journal in August 2023. And so today I went to somewhere where I have some of my belongings that I haven't made space for yet, and I found a journal, and I thought it was predominantly empty. Like, there's a lot of blank pages, and so that's why I grabbed it. And as I'm, like, writing down notes for this video, because you know, it's pretty late right now. You can tell I'm using, like, an LED white light. And these conversations happened earlier in the day. And so I'm writing these notes down, and I go and turn the page, and I was like, oh, there are words in here. And I'm reading through some of the things, and one of them I wanted to read. It's kind of relevant, or part of it I wanted to read. So, on objectivity, And this happened when Venus was in Leo, square Jupiter in Taurus, and the Mars was also in Virgo, which is in opposition to Neptune in Pisces. So that is more like the energy of like a self-esteem blow, like losing something that was we desperately wanted to win. And it was a reminder to take the day off and to enjoy things like love and food and pleasures. But, on objectivity, I wrote, to survive in the human vessel, one must become objective. The energy in motion, called emotion, traps the vessel in an intense spill of energy that affects the mind and body, leaving the spirit detached if allowed to consume the vehicle. It's truly amazing if one can detach from the pain and function from the higher self. I've existed in this vessel as such before, the imbalance arriving when it comes to harmonizing. If I were to put less energy into the pursuit of happiness, would the ones around me be able to coexist? What if I fought for presence and focused on the beauties of now, and through the harmonization process am forced to entertain the dissatisfactory concepts of the future? There's so much wasted energy and imagination, resulting in waves of intense emotional pain. And so that was that reflection of just like, okay, like during that time I was pregnant. So there's, hormonal interactions, emotions, and there are certain things I was experiencing too that being in that emotional state, it was hard to navigate. It was like a challenge for me, which is why it's funny whenever people are like, are you just emotional? It's like, no, like I have felt things very deeply. And also putting myself in an objective state, I am able to navigate it a lot easier with a lot of clarity, and therefore hold safe space for other people because I can see what they're going to and I can feel it, but not allow the energy of that emotion to take over my vessel to where I can't discern and help to balance the situation or offer insights. That was on objectivity, and I always find it really interesting to stumble upon past versions of myself and what I was experiencing and how I got through it, and finding truth and looking in the past and being like, yeah, I navigated it that way, and I'm so glad that I did, because I still find truth in that way of being. And because I had that thought, it has projected me into the mental clarity that I have today in this moment. And going back to that situation where I'm expressing myself, I felt like it was a safe space. I had it in my mind already that if I expressed myself and there was a negative reaction, it would be okay, because I have already created a safe space within myself. I already can hold myself and the way that I feel, because I have done work on my childhood wounds. And like, I know some people get triggered by that. It's like, what are you talking about, childhood wounds? Your childhood was not that bad from like outside perspectives and all that stuff. And it's like, it's not like that. Everybody has experienced something throughout their life when there was a child that made them feel a certain way. Whether or not it was intentional, it still happened. And as a child, you're learning to navigate everything. So things feel so intense. That's why we say with toddlers, there's big emotions over something that might be very small, but to them, it's a huge deal. So that's what I'm referring to. And maybe you have experienced things in your childhood that were a really big deal. I'm just, putting a disclaimer out there, just so I don't trigger anybody, because I've triggered people in the past by talking about things along the nature, and it's just like, it's not meant to like offend anybody. This is just like a general thing. Like, everybody has childhood wounds. Everybody does. And so to create a safe space within yourself, there's practices that you can do where you go back to a child version of yourself, and a version that was sad or scared, and you show up to them, right? You just like imagine that 4-year-old, that 6-year-old, that 8-year-old, that 10-year-old, however old you were, and you go up to them and talk to them, have some sort of interaction, something that version of you needed to hear, something that this version of you knows that version of you would have needed to hear. The first time I went back and visited my childhood self, I just gave her a hug. I gave her such a beautiful hug, and that's all she needed. She just needed someone to hug her. And I'm like tearing up because I remember how intense the healing was, because you're doing this in your mind, but the energy trickles. Like, that healed something in me to get that hug in this realm. And so the more you do that and you visit so many different age ranges of yourself, depending on like what you're going through, it really does shift who you are in the present. And one thing I really love about visiting the childhood self is that playful child nature, because now I'm able to go and just be in I'll be doing something, I'll just be like singing, or I'll be like skipping and not really caring if the people around me in society are just like, what's this adult doing, like singing in public or skipping in public or whatever other things I do. And I feel my child self just like right at the forefront, I'm skipping with her, like we are one and the same. And that's one of the keys to happiness too, is to like keep that childlike nature. We have our adult minds who tell us the responsibilities and offer the discernment on how to navigate and everything, but then there's that lightness of the childhood wonder that can keep with us and foster and all that. And when your childhood self feels safe, then you can just hold safe space for yourself, right? Say you get triggered by something somebody said or somebody did, you can like really sit and like look back and reflect on why you're triggered by it based off of what happened in your past, and you can revisit that version of yourself and just like have a conversation with yourself and just like hold yourself and work through it in that way. And then you won't necessarily need to be seeking out a safe space in other people. So if like you're always used to holding safe space for other people, and then other people can't hold safe space for you, it's not really their fault. Most people have no idea what safe space is because they haven't experienced it themselves. Isn't that like the saddest thing? It's so sad, and it's the reality. It's like to have to learn what safety is. you know, emotional intelligence is something that's learned. We're humans, and so in our vessel, we feel so much energy, and it's it's a challenge to navigate. And that's one of the beautiful challenges about being a parent, is when the child is going through that and you've done like work on yourself and you can see what they're going through, and you've learned to process your emotions in a healthy way, and you've also experienced what it's like to navigate the emotions and not be able to process it in a healthy way. It's like, well, now you can feel for that child who's like experiencing these really big emotions and they don't know how to process it, but you can teach them how to process it. You can have conversations with them. You can teach them breathing techniques. You can just show up consistently and make sure that they don't have any wounds. And it's got like this tickle on my nose. Um, uh, yeah. Trying to think if there's anything else. And I just really want you to know that like you are doing a great job. Like you are doing so much work on yourself, and you're almost there. You are almost to being one with that child inside of you, you know, the one that's like curled up a little bit scared, the one that's like holding the hand of your ego and putting up walls on scary occasions and scary interactions. Like, y'all will soon be playing together, and when you do, your force field expands, because it doesn't matter how people come forth to you. Like, yeah, somebody might do something and say something and it could trigger something, but it won't hurt so bad, because you'll just be able to look back on yourself and not really be too concerned about the other person, but like sharing with the other individual so that there's awareness. There's so much value in that, because it's not really just for you, it's for them as well. Because if we didn't have that feedback, then we just go around being oblivious on how we're affecting other people. And that's the big thing about safe space. It's like sometimes we just don't know how we're affecting other people. I've had situations where I walk into an environment and I'm just being myself. I'm not really interacting with anybody. I'm just like doing my grocery shopping. And then somebody who I've never spoken to, well, maybe I did speak to them before, but it was before different things had happened. And they messaged me and they were just like, you have no idea how you make people feel. And it's just like, yeah, you're right. I don't have any idea how I make people feel, because I'm just living my life and I'm not taking any actions that are like actively hurting anybody. But sometimes just by being, you trigger reactions in other people, because you're showing a reflection of who they have the potential to be, or who they've been, or different things that they're capable of that they might not think that they're capable of, because of all these different programs or different things that they're working in. And you know, it's really fascinating to be a human. Really, I just remembered there was another excerpt that I wanted to share. This is also from August 2023. Who am I to try and hold the earth when the dust wishes to fly where the wind takes it and merge with all the things? A spirit has many ways to evolve, and it gets to choose in the method that they wish to. A spirit is prone to entanglement when in the human vessel, as it merges with the emotions that come with it. Deep compassion stemming from empathy and love connection complicate a single spirit's journey. A harmonization of souls coming together is a tower moment, a decision of death and rebirth. Anew, a pact rises. My higher self is quick to release a soul that feels the harmonization process to be that of a never-ending suffering. The human aspect is what holds on to hope and continues to wash away the old and evolve anew, yet all that change and release. And there's a matter of my being that refuses to shift. This is what brings me to acceptance that perhaps it's not my time, no matter how much my human self desires. And so, these children ran 1.75 years, and the one in my womb, 13.75 weeks, are my peace and happiness. I'm skipping some parts. I have children who I can show the way and who are already energetically ingrained with my values, spiritual wisdom, insights, views, morals, and motive. Affection and connection are beautiful tools and necessarily curses, but only if the other party feels torture, and I as well. And it's all a choice, you know. These human interactions are just, they're very delicate things. When we were speaking earlier, one of the ladies mentioned that safe space, specifically with other women, are very complicated because we are such complex beings. You know, like we're very tied to our waters. Regardless if our astrological chart has water in it or not. If it does, then like it's even more intense. But even if it doesn't, like we still feel things, and that's one of the beauties about being a woman, is that we are forced into growth because we feel things and we need to process them and move on. And we feel things for 28-day cycles, you know. We have the opportunity to like heal them in these cycles, and it's a beautiful blessing to be able to feel. Just if anybody needs to hear that, because you are really feeling it, like it is a blessing you can feel, and that you have opinions, because that is information. That is information for you about what needs to be released, what is ready to be healed. I'm gonna pull a insight for y'all before we head out. Okay. And to everybody who's watching, thank you. Like, energetically, I feel your presence no matter when you are tuning into this. I feel it. I've done these energy studies, which I've taught a little bit in some workshops. I'm gonna teach it some more in some upcoming ones. For Zen Awakening, like I mentioned, it's November 14th through 17th. I'm doing a workshop, and I might do 2 workshops, but in the beginning and in the end, I will go through an energetic practice to where you can feel the energetic extensions of the people who aren't even there, but the ones who are tapped into the frequency. And so that's like what I'm really speaking to right now, is if you're tuning into this, no matter when you're tuning into it, you're connected to a collective of beings who are also receiving this message and the guidance at the time that they need it. And because time isn't really a linear thing, you know, you are just like, healing simultaneously with a whole wave of beings. Ooh, okay. Insight. If forgiving someone seems to be impossible for you, let God forgive that person through you. As a result, you become free from the detrimental forces of resentment and hate. A healing occurs. Wow. That is very strong. Affirmation. A lack of forgiveness hurts me. I send out love and forgiveness, then love and forgiveness return to me. Forgiveness creates many blessings. Screenshot that, lovely. It's true, isn't it? So may you be able to allow the divine to work through you and forgive the other person. Or maybe in this moment they know not how to show up in the way that you would like them to or need them to. But through forgiveness, you release an energetic pressure on yourself that feels grief or hurt from it. And by you forgiving, you are healing them, because maybe they haven't had that opportunity before where somebody did forgive them regardless of their emotional reaction, which we know is stemming from a lack of knowing what safe space is, a lack of being held themselves. Maybe they're used to that program of reacting a certain way and having another reaction from the other person. And when you stop that cycle and you're just like, hey, I love you, I see you, I forgive you, and still like hold your boundaries. But the forgiveness is what's healing and does a lot for you. Alright? I feel like I'm really sentimental right now. It's weird. Like I talk about like being emotionless yesterday, and like during this talk, I haven't been like this all day. I'm just like feeling like tears, and I'm feeling like my sinuses is starting to engage. So I'm gonna go. Good night. Like, please comment, share it with people. I feel like a lot of people need this message.